This is the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Yes, this girl really faked her death. So at the time, I was 5 and my little brother was 3. It started off with my mom saying that she didn't feel well and she couldn't pick me up from school, so the bus would have to take me home. Well, a few months after, she started getting picked up from our house by this black car. She said that car was picking her up because of her so-called doctor's appointments. And she wasn't able to drive herself because she was too sick. Well, one day, when this car came to pick her up, she never came home. Me and my little brother were sitting around for a couple days waiting for her to come home, but she never came home, and we were young, so we didn't do anything. Eventually, my aunt came over to our house and told my little brother and I that our mom had passed away, and that she was cremated and they kept the ashes. So our aunt started taking care of us. Until one day, I saw my aunt getting picked up by that same black car. That's when I started to get suspicious of everything, and I decided to check these ashes. When I checked, it was flour. Like for part 2.
One day in elementary school, it was lunchtime. A bitch had to go potty. It was poo-poo time. So I remember I went to the restroom and I was exploding or whatever. And these girls walked in. We're gonna call them the Chipettes, okay? This is the best part. So the Chipettes start yelling in the bathroom. Is someone here? Can someone hear me? Like, I didn't say anything. I was literally taking a shit. Like, what? These girls, deadass, start laughing. They turn off the lights in the bathroom. They turn on all the sinks, whatever. And they start saying like Bloody Mary or some shit. And then the Chipettes run out of the bathroom and shut the door. So here I am getting casted on. I remember seeing a shadow. I fell on my ass and I start screaming and crying. It wasn't good. So someone called the janitor. Janitor walks in to check up on me. It's a guy. So a long time ago, I had a crush on this kid. We're gonna call him Damon, bitch. Damon ended up asking me on a date and we went to the mall. So long story short, we get to the mall and we decided to take the elevator because we were gonna go to the rooftop. So we enter the elevator, we're going up, and then I start thinking, what if I start jumping really aggressively and I make the elevator stop and me and Damon can have quality time? I'm fucking crazy. So that's what I did. I started jumping aggressively and pushing random buttons on the elevator. Damon thought it was funny, so he did it too. We ended up getting stuck in the elevator together. So fuck yeah, I guess. So 10 minutes into being stuck, I started getting really nervous. So Damon started cuddling me to try to calm me down. Keep in mind at this point, I was already really nervous while we were cuddling, okay? This is the best part! So I'm nervous, we're cuddling, and I shit myself, and the shit is literally leaking out of my pants. So he starts smelling, and he starts looking around, and he sees the caca leaking out of my pants.
If a website ever asks you these questions, don't do what she did. Once there was a girl named Masha who heard that there's a new service that gives everyone free internet access, so she decided to use it, but this would lead to something horrifying for Masha and her family. After she connected to this internet service, a web page popped up asking her to register some information, but the questions were oddly personal. It asked, what's your usual mode of transportation? With a photo of a bus, a boat, a train, and a plane. Masha took her bike to school every day, so she clicked on the train instead. But the next day, the local news showed that there was a horrific train crash that killed everyone on board. Masha thought that this was a coincidence, but soon she'd realize that she made a deadly mistake. Later, she needed to use the internet again, so she logged back in. This time it asked, what kind of home do you live in? Along with 4 different pictures of different types of homes. She clicked apartment even though her and her family lived in a house. And the next day, the apartment building near her school burned down. The police suspected arson. Then she went back to the internet server one last time, but this time it showed a photo of her mother, father, sister, and herself with the question, who is your favorite family?
Part 2 of how I found out that I was dating my own brother. Continuing on with the story, me and his 9 months were coming up. Also, he was adopted and his foster family absolutely adored me, so they were okay with me keeping it a secret from my grandma. They were the ones to help me tell her. So not only were our 9 months coming up, but his birthday was the next day. And he told me the only thing that he wanted for his birthday was for my part of the family to know that we were together. So one day I sat down at the table and I was like, hey, I think it's about time that I tell you. And then I told her everything and she asked for a picture. I showed her a picture and she was like, "Aw, he's cute. How old is he?" At first she was okay with everything, and the age difference she was kind of iffy about, but then she accepted it. Then she asked his name. I told her his name.
Storytime part 2 on how my sister ended up accidentally dating my brother. So over the course of dating John for about 5 years, she picked up a lot of information about his life. Essentially, he said that he came back to his birth home to go to community college here after his dad passed away. in Germany. His dad never said anything about his mom, so he never knew name or any info. While this seemed kind of similar to our brother's story, she just wasn't thinking about it. It happened when she was so young that it just didn't really cross her mind. And my mom and her were not on speaking terms, so it's not like my mom could just recognize him. Anyways, since they were dating for so long, he ended up proposing to her. She was so excited and ended up bringing him over to our grandma's to spread the news. When they walked in, my grandma made the weirdest face. She asked what his name was and then broke down into tears when he said John. She was like, "Oh my God, that is your long-lost brother." And the only reason she knew it is because my dad had contact with her before he passed away. They were obviously very disgusted because they were engaged and had done the nasties. We now have family reunions now that my mom and her are on better terms, but it's still weird. Crazy ass story time about how my best friend's parents walked in on me sleeping with my best friend's brothers. And yes, I said brothers. So my freshman year, I became best friends with this girl. And she had 2 older, hot ass brothers. One was in college, and one was a senior. Well, it was Christmas break, and her older brother from college was home. And my parents let me go with them to Florida for Christmas break. They had a super nice beach house, and I was sharing a room with my best friend. And the boys were sharing a room. And our room was connected because there was a bathroom in the middle. Well, my best friend got super sick the first 3 days of the trip, so she didn't do anything with us. So I was hanging out with the boys all the time. Well, the one night we were on the deck and we started to play Truth or Dare. And one of them asked, "Would you sleep with us?" And I said yeah. So at around 3 a.m. I snuck into their room and things started to get real nasty. There are kids on this app, so just use your imagination. And things started to get really loud and we woke their parents up, like for part 2.
One time I had to stay at my grandma's because my dad was on vacation. And I was having a huge box of clothes come in and I was not about to have these hoes stolen, so I had my friend stop by to put them inside. So I called my friend up and I was like, "Hey, can you tell me when you get to my house and let me know when you put the package in?" She was like, "I got you, shawty." I was like, "Bet, girl." So around 10 minutes later, I got a call from her freaking out. She was like, "Kayla, is there anybody at your house?" I was like, "No, my dad's on vacation and I'm at my grandma's." She said, "No, Kayla, there is somebody at your house right now." So I start freaking out. I'm like, "Girl, what do you mean?" And she said she saw someone walk across this huge window and then my dad's lights turned on. So I start freaking out. I'm like, "What did you see walk across the window? Like, who did it look like?" And she said it was just a black tall figure that walked across that window. And around 5 minutes of being on the phone freaking out, she said my dad's lights turned off again. Eventually, me and my grandma drove by the house to make sure nobody was there, and of course, nobody was in my house. And it only gets worse.